one of the questions that I would ask is whose responsibility is it to interpret these seasonal forecasts for decision making and action?
Thank you very much, Diana. A very interesting question that you raised. Whose responsibility is? I would say it's really all our responsibility because, so for example, as humanitarian organizations, when we receive the seasonal forecast, we ask ourselves, what should we do with this forecast? Who should we support with various interventions based on this forecast? Does it mean there's going to be a hazard coming up? Does it mean people will be seriously impacted? Or does it mean actually it's good weather, it's good climate, that people can really be more productive than they have been, right? So at the end of the day, if really we are to support our communities to build resilience and to enhance their livelihoods, it is all our business to be able to interpret and understand this forecast and be able to take action. Yeah, so on one hand, we need the scientists like Teferi and Robert to help us understand what does probability mean. And if the seasonal forecast say, let's say it's 50% probability of below average rainfall, what does that really mean? Should I be taking any action? What action should I be taking? For whom, right? So there's a level of interpretation that we need from the science, but then there's a level of interpretation that we need from the users to be able to connect what the science is saying to what we should actually be doing on the ground to make sure that we can go through a season without having to end up like currently what's happening in the East Africa region, putting flash appeals because drought has severely affected us, and yet we could have taken advantage of the science to really implement actions to mitigate that as much as possible. So back to your question, Diana, I think we should all be invested in interpreting seasonal forecasts.
Okay, and World Food Programme is responding by finance-based, is it? Sorry, what is it called? Focus-based financing. So can you tell us a little bit about how that works and what how it benefits the communities?
Great, thank you. So in a nutshell, focus-based financing is a way of us being able to properly interpret seasonal forecasts together with other kinds of forecasts to be able to figure out, for example, what does a probability mean? Teferi also said something about the scale of the forecast. Essentially, we also want to understand how good is this forecast? If it's telling me 50% probability over the short rain season, for example, is it very good at telling me specifically there's going to be below average rainfall, for example? But at the same time, also appreciating the fact that forecasts are never 100% telling you exactly what will happen in the coming season, in the coming days. It gives you a chance that this might happen. How do I interpret that information such that I can start to implement actions? And that's the idea behind focus-based financing, that we are taking more of a proactive approach for us to collectively interpret, understand, and interpret this forecast, to also decide what are the actions we are going to implement when, let's say, a seasonal forecast is released and says there's going to be a 60% chance of above average rainfall. Yeah, and what are these actions we are going to implement based on what impacts we expect are going to happen on the communities on the ground. We also need to think about who will implement these actions. What are the roles and responsibilities? Who will activate the alert that now it's time to act, right? Where is the money going to come from to make sure that the communities themselves can act, can take action, but us as humanitarian or development organizations can support the communities to take action. And so in the end, it's a way of interpreting the forecast and putting that into what you're calling a standard operating procedures, such that each time you don't have to struggle to interpret the forecast that you've already agreed. When the forecast tells me 60% chance of below average rainfall, I know immediately this is the action I should take for this particular location, for this particular people, and this is how I'm going to go about doing it with other actors. Back to you, Dana.